Hello, everybody, and welcome into an updated Bracketology. We are just days away from Selection Sunday. We're going to find out who's in and who's out in just a couple of days. We have the ACC tournament kicking off. Today, we have Virginia Tech and Notre Dame tipping off, and we also have the rest of the Power Five conferences tipping off tomorrow night on Wednesday. And we've already got some automatic qualifying bids from the Group of Five conferences as well. So, this is the time to be a college basketball fan during March Madness. So we're almost here. Let's get into the updated bracketology on March 7th. Minardi put out his one. He grabbed his cup of coffee and put it out at 12:15 in the morning. You have top overall seed Kansas. Now we have seen a couple of teams fluctuate in this top overall seed. It's definitely interesting to see Kansas in here. They definitely have the resume over Alabama. Alabama has been in this spot as well. Purdue also has been in this spot early on in the season. And then the first team out on the bracket watch is Oklahoma State. Now, Oklahoma State has gone on a losing skid here. They lost 6 of their last 8 games. So Oklahoma State is in desperate need of getting a win. They'll face off against 10-seeded Oklahoma. So they're going to have to make some noise if they want to feel safe heading into the tournament. And then the last team in is Nevada. Same thing for Nevada. A win pretty much should lock them into the tournament. A loss, though, would knock them out and open up a door for a team like North Carolina in Michigan. And now we go on now to the bubble watch. So your teams on the bubble, your last 4 buys are Boise State, NC State, Pittsburgh, and Penn State. Boise State got a quality win against San Diego State, I believe it was either last week or 2 weeks ago on their home court. San Diego State is firmly in the tournament. They're a 6 seed. NC State is another team that I really like. The Wolfpack has some size and also has some shooters that can make really a deep run. NC State right now is an 8 seed, but if they can make some noise in the ACC tournament as well, they will be locked in. Pittsburgh is another one of those ACC teams that can be sneaky as well, so a win should lock them in as well. Penn State getting a quality win against Maryland on their home court this weekend. Number 21 Maryland got upset by Penn State. Penn State is really looking good down the stretch. They're going to be a team to watch, especially early on in the month of March. Last 4 in is Mississippi State, Utah State, Rutgers, and Nevada. Mississippi State is one of those SEC teams that have been on the bubble for quite a while. They either been on the last 4 in or the last 4 by. So Mississippi State has to beat Florida if they want to really feel good about themselves. And Florida losing Colin Castleton is also a big loss for them. So Mississippi State should be able to get the win there. Utah State's another one that has to get in. Rutgers is another team that's been on the losing skid as well. And Nevada, we've already talked about them already. The first 4 outs are Oklahoma State, Wisconsin, Arizona State, and North Carolina. Wisconsin is one of those teams that I feel like they're going to have to go deep into the Big Ten tournament. They just have having 13 losses leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I know with the Big Ten, you can get some really quality wins, especially with Purdue along their route. They also face Michigan State as well. North Carolina is one of those teams that a lot of people had question marks throughout the season. They were preseason number 1, so if they miss the tournament, that would be the first time that a preseason ranked number 1 team doesn't make the field. Arizona State and Oklahoma State round out the first 4 out. The next 4 out is Michigan, Charleston, Clemson, and Oregon. And Michigan is starting to play some good brand of basketball. They'll have a good opportunity in the Big Ten tournament. They will have to face Purdue if they do win in that 9-8 matchup. But if they can get that win against Purdue, that'll probably lock them into the tournament. Charleston is another team that started off the season hot and only has 3 losses on the season, but their strength of the schedule isn't that great. But they are facing off in their conference championship. If they win that, then there will be no questions asked if Charleston's going to be in since they get the automatic bid. Clemson is another team. They're 22-8 overall, but they have some bad losses on their schedule that's leaving the committee a bad taste in their mouth. And then Oregon has been so-so throughout the season. They've had some wins where they look really good, and they played some games where I just have question marks about this team. So that's the team on the bubble. So now let's go on to the updated 68-team bracket. Let's see if there's any new teams here to the field of 68. You have Utah State, the new team, in the play-in tournament at the 11 seed. Rutgers falls to the 11 seed. In the Midwest, as you see, there are only 1 team added to the field, Utah State as the 11 seed. In the South, you see Cleveland State being added as a 16 seed. West Virginia moving up to a 9. Drake is in the field, and they're going to be an automatic qualifier since they beat Bradley in their conference tournament championship a couple of days ago. Penn State's moving up to 11 seed after some real quality wins in the back half of their schedule. Duke has fallen to a 7 seed, and Colgate is fallen to the 15 seed. But they'll be able to get safely into the tournament if they can beat Lafayette. Lafayette's a team that only won 10 games during the regular season. They find themselves in their conference tournament championship. So we'll see if Lafayette can really complete their Cinderella story, or if Colgate is going to be in the tournament, which feels like they've been in every tournament. They've just been so consistent. So watch out for Colgate. In the West, you have Florida Atlantic being up to an 8 seed. Kentucky moves up to a 6. Pittsburgh moves down to an 11 seed. Northwestern moves down to a 7. Providence moves down to a 10. And in the East, you see Rutgers falling down to 11 and Boise State falling down to 10. Montana State new to the field at the 15 seed after knocking off number 1 seed. I'm not quite sure their number 1 seed, but they did knock off the favorite in their conference tournament. We also saw Louisiana. They are in the tournament for the first time in a couple of years, beating South Alabama in the Sun Belt. So that is your look at the new teams in the tournament. That's also your field of 68, how it looks on March 7th as we sit here on this Tuesday night. So let's go ahead. I was able to make the bracket on an Excel sheet. So let me go ahead and pull that up right for you. And we're going to go ahead and get into our predictions for this video. So let me go ahead and pull up the Excel here. So what we have here, what I did, I went on the website, I also plugged in all the teams here. So we'll start in the West. The defending national champs and the number 1 overall seed Kansas facing off against 16 seed Southeast Missouri State and Fairleigh Dickinson. Fairleigh Dickinson is going to be playing in the conference tournament against Merrimack, but Merrimack is not eligible for the NCAA tournament. So I do believe that Southeastern Missouri State, really impressed by them, especially with a crazy overtime game in their OVC conference against Tennessee Tech. But in the end, I think that Kansas is going to move on. The 8-9 matchup in the West is Missouri and Memphis. Now, this would be a very difficult game for me to pick. Missouri has been an up-and-down team in the SEC, has some real quality wins on their schedule, but Memphis really impressed me on Sunday afternoon. I know that they lost that game against Houston. Jamal Shed got off a buzzer beater to beat the Tigers, but I just like this this Memphis team, So I'm going to go for a little 9-8 upset over here. 5 seed Miami, 12 seed VCU. This is pretty easy to me. I just don't really have any trust in VCU this season. 4 seeded Indiana, 13 seed Toledo. Now, Toledo is definitely interesting. I think that they're one of my teams. If you are going to pick a 13 seed to upset Toledo as one, but I just love Indiana. They definitely have the solid guard play. I think that Indiana can be a sneaky team that can make it not only to the Elite Eight, but also to the Final Four as well. 6 seed Michigan State, 11 seed Mississippi State, Utah State. I would have Mississippi State winning the playing game, but ultimately losing to Michigan State. Michigan State is definitely playing a better brand of basketball as of late. So I'm got to go with Sparty. Got to go with Izzo in March. His club always turns it on. 3 seed Marquette, 14 seed Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State is a very interesting story. Just a couple of years ago, they were 1-21. And now they have a chance to get into the tournament, but their tournament run ends here. Marquette is one of my favorite teams to really make some noise in the tournament. 7 seed Texas A&M, 10 seed NC State. I love NC State, but I think that this matchup really suits Texas A&M. NC State is always going to be a very unfavorable matchup, especially with their guard play. But I think that the way that Wade Taylor has been playing, the way that this Aggies program has been rolling this season, got to go with A&M. 2 seed Arizona, UNC Asheville. That's an easy pick for me. I got to go with Arizona. So we'll continue here. In the West, we go on now to the round of 32. 1 seed Kansas, 9 seed Memphis. Don't see an upset here. We're going to move on. Kansas. Miami, Indiana. This is tough for me. I've been high on both teams, but in the end, I'm going to go with Indiana. The Hoosiers moving on. Michigan State and Marquette. Oh, do I want to pull the upset? I'm not. I'm going to go with Marquette. And going on, that's one. Texas A&M versus Arizona. Now, I do love both of these teams. Texas A&M, if I had to pick to really make some noise as a 7 seed, I would, but this is not a matchup that I'm really favoring for them. Arizona is one of the more elite teams. I know that they just lost to UCLA, but UCLA is another team that can make some noise, even win the national championship in this bracket. So we move on to the Sweet 16. Kansas, Indiana. Going to go with Kansas. I think that the reigning national champs continue on. Marquette, Arizona. Going to go with the 3-2 upset. I'm going to go with Marquette over Zona. And then we have an Elite Eight matchup, Kansas versus Marquette. And this is tough, but I got to give it to Kansas. I think that Kansas, I know that they just lost to Texas by 16 points on the road, but I think there's really nothing to worry about with this team. One of the better basketball teams. Marquette, though, with Shaka Smart, they've really been impressing me. So I have Kansas coming out of the West. Now moving on down to the East bracket, UCLA, the 1 seed going up against 16 seed Texas A&M Corpus Christi. I got UCLA, the Bruins moving on. 8 seed Florida Atlantic, 9 seeded Auburn. I'm going to go with another 9-8 seed. I know that Auburn has been a little bit inconsistent down the stretch, but they did get a big win at home that really left a good taste in my mouth. They really played Alabama really down to the wire in both matches. Florida Atlantic is going to be a team, if they face off against anybody, they're going to be a tough out. But I do going to go for an upset here once again, go with Auburn. St. Mary's and Charleston, man, St. Mary's is one of the few teams to beat Gonzaga this season, but Charleston, 30-3, can't forget that record. Do I want to pull the upset? You know what? Let's have some fun. I'm going to go with Charleston. I'm really liking this team. St. Mary's, though, is a seasoned bunch. They're veteran, but I'm going to go with an upset. You got to go with an upset here. You can't just go all chalk. So I'm going to go with Charleston pulling off the 12/5. Virginia, Utah Valley. Virginia always disappoints me when I pick them far, but I'm going to continue to do that. But Utah Valley is another team to watch out for. They could be a bunch that can really put you on upset alert at any moment. 6 seed Kentucky, 11 seed Pittsburgh. I'm going to go with Kentucky. Kentucky has definitely been playing better down the stretch. Oscar Tshiebwe is playing like the Oscar Tshiebwe we've been knowing. And Austin Reeves has really been lights out from deep. 3 seed Gonzaga, 14 seed Furman. Furman was able to win their conference championship last night, actually, but I got to go with the Zags. I feel like there's less pressure. Usually the Gonzaga is the 1 seed, but with the 3 seed, maybe there won't be much pressure. So I'm going to go with Mark Fuse, Gonzaga Zags, moving on. 7 seed Northwestern, 10 seed Providence. Now, Providence has been playing better, but I just can't pick against Northwestern. They've really been a program that we haven't really been talking about as of late. You know, they're the 2 seed in the Big Ten tournament. So there's got to be something to love with this one. Providence has the opportunity to pull off an upset here, but I'm not going to pull the trigger yet. And Texas for mine, got to go with the 2 seed Texas moving on. So we do have the round of 32 matchup set in the East, and UCLA Auburn. This is pretty easy for me. UCLA has the guys with Johnny Uzang and Jami Yaquez as well. So I got to go with UCLA moving on. Charleston and Virginia. Man, do I want to put Charleston in the Sweet 16? Nope. I'm going to go with the Cavaliers. Move it on. Kentucky, Gonzaga. This is tough for me. Now, I picked Kentucky to win the national championship last year, but that didn't work. So with that being said, this is a tough matchup, but I think I got to go with Gonzaga, Drew Timme, and the Gonzaga Bulldogs moving on. Northwestern and Texas. I'm going to go with Texas. Texas has really been impressing me. Got a real good win against Kansas. And there's been some times like the TCU game last week where they were really vulnerable. So they can be vulnerable at times, but I think that they'll handle the business against Northwestern. UCLA, Virginia. I'm going to go with UCLA in this one. I think that Virginia's defense is always tricky, but UCLA has the offense to move on in this one. And I'm going to go with an upset. I'm going to go with Gonzaga over Texas. I think that the experience for Gonzaga is finally going to reach in there. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to go Gonzaga moving all the way to the Final Four. Like I mentioned, I just think that the talent is finally there. Now, I know that people are going to say, well, last year's team was more talented, but I just feel like the expectation, it's not as tough. Last year, they were the number 1 overall seed. Everybody was picking them to win the national championship. I don't think no one is going to pick them hardly ever to win the national championship. But this year, maybe there'll be a couple. But I got Gonzaga moving on to the Final Four. So now let's move on. Now we'll start on the bottom right portion of the bracket. We'll go up. We have the Houston in the Midwest. They're the 1 seed facing Howard and Alcorn State. I'll probably go with Alcorn State to win that matchup, but Houston is going to take the cake. Maryland and Arkansas, the 8 and the 9 seed. I'm going to go with Arkansas on this one. I know that they've been trending on the downward in here, but I just feel like their talent is going to at least win them a game here in the March Madness. We'll see if whatever takes them from there. Arkansas last year made it all the way to Elite Eight, so we'll see if they can finally show that they're a top 10 team. They have top 10 talent, but they just haven't shown it throughout the season. Iowa State and Oral Roberts, and this is tough. Iowa State started off their season really hot, and then they had that stretch in the middle of their season where they had some question marks. Oral Roberts, though, we know their story. This was a team that made it all the way to the Sweet 16, and I'm going to do it again. I have Oral Roberts upsetting Iowa State. Not only do I have one upset, one 12 seed, but I also have another 12 seed. You might as well. It's called March Madness for a reason. Might as well create some madness. 4 seed UConn, 13 seed Iona. I'm going to go with Iona. 6 seed at Creighton, 11 seed Rutgers and Nevada. I'm going to go with Rutgers. I know that they haven't been playing the brand of basketball they're so accustomed to, but I'm going to go with Creighton in this matchup. Tennessee, Louisiana. I'm going to go with Tennessee, though. I think that Louisiana could spark an upset here, especially with Sky Ziegler being out for the season for the Vols. 7 seed Iowa and Boise State. I'm going to go with Boise State. Iowa's just too inconsistent for me. I mean, this was the same team that got bounced by 12-seeded Richmond last year's tournament, so it's definitely hard to pick them again. 2 seed Baylor, 15 seed Montana State. Got to go with Baylor. I think that Baylor is one of those teams that no one's really talking about them in the Big 12, but I think that Baylor could be a team that can make some noise. Houston, Arkansas. This would be a phenomenal matchup in round 2, but I'm going to go with the Cougars, especially with their experience in the tournament. They have one of the best coaches in all of college basketball with Kelvin Sampson. So I think that Houston is due for another big run in the tourney. Oral Roberts, UConn. I do have the Cinderella story ending here. UConn is going to defeat Oral Roberts to move on to the Sweet 16. Creighton and Tennessee. Now, this is tough for me. I do like the potential of this Creighton team, but in the end, I'm going to go with Tennessee. I'm moving on. I know that they lost to Kai Ziegler, but this is still a team that has really impressed me. If they can get hot from the three-point line, then this is a tough team to beat. Boise State, Baylor. I do like Boise State and their potential, but I am going to go with Baylor in this one. And Houston and UConn. I know the Midwest is about to be chalky, and you're all probably going to hate it, but I'm going to go with Houston over UConn, and then Baylor over Houston. And then we have Houston and Baylor, the All-Texas matchup in the Midwest, and I'm going to go with the Cougars. I think that with Marcus Sasser, Jamal Sheed, and company leading the way, I think that Houston is due for another Final Four, and I got the Cougars moving on to pretty much their home court, since the Final Four is going to be in Houston, Texas. So let's see what happens. In the South, number 1 seed Alabama will defeat 16 seed Cleveland State. I don't know what's happening here, so I guess I got to go in and fill in there. So we'll see there. So I have Alabama. I guess we'll just go with the A for Alabama since it's not working. I have Alabama moving on past Cleveland State. 8 seed Illinois will advance over 9 seeded West Virginia. 5 seed TCU, 12 seed Drake. Now, in the past, I've seen Drake in much easier matchups. I would pick Drake here just because of their season really experience, but I got to go with TCU. TCU is one of those teams that I love. I'm going to pick them probably to go far. 4 seed Xavier will beat Yale. Penn State, I'm going to go with them to upset San Diego State. Now, I know that a lot of people have really been down in San Diego State. Trust me, they have the talent to go far, but Penn State, you got to go with the hot hand here. Penn State is starting to get hot at the right time. 3 seeded Kansas State will beat UC Irvine. 7 seeded Duke, USC, 10 seed. I'm going to go with Duke. Duke doesn't have Coach K anymore. They're starting to play really good basketball. Got a really good win on the road against North Carolina. They swept North Carolina, got some real quality wins in the ACC. A tough conference it has been. And then 2 seeded Purdue, 15 seed Colgate. Colgate is always playing teams close. I can remember them last season against Wisconsin, 2 years ago against Arkansas, but the matchup here doesn't favor them with Zach Edey and Purdue. I got to go with the Boilermakers moving the train along. Alabama, Illinois, got to go with Alabama. Illinois is just too inconsistent for me to pick them going far. I feel like every year I pick them to go far and they just let me down. I'm going to go with TCU upsetting Xavier, and this one a small upset in the 5/4. Penn State, Kansas State. Kansas State's one of my favorite teams this season, so I got to go with the Wildcats in this one. A really good story with Keontae Johnson. If you don't know his story, he collapsed on the the floor with the Florida Gators. He ended up transferring this season to Kansas State, and he has really been a difference maker for that Kansas State ball club. Duke and Purdue, I'm going to do it. I'm going to have a first upset here in the bracket. I'm going to have Duke upsetting Purdue. I just feel like the expectation is not as far as Duke, and, that can go a long way. Purdue hasn't really been impressing me as of late. They've had some close wins against some really quality opponents, but just relying on one guy in Zach Edey is definitely going to be interesting. I think that if they can win the Big Ten championship, give me back some confidence, then I'm going to pick Purdue to go far. But for now, I'm going to go with Duke, Alabama, TCU. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go with TCU upsetting Alabama. After the Brandon Miller news, this Alabama team just hasn't been the same. So I got to go with the Horned Frogs. They've really been impressing me. Marcus Miles is one of my favorite players to watch. I got to go with the Horned Frogs. Kansas State and Duke. This is where I have Duke's run in. I'm going to go with Kansas State. So we have Kansas State, TCU, and I'm going to go with the Kansas State Wildcats. I think that Kansas State is built. They have what it takes to make it all the way to the Final Four. So we have our Final Four set. We have Kansas State, Kansas. So we have two Kansas teams. So we'll see if that works out. And then we also have Houston and Gonzaga. So our first matchup is Gonzaga and Kansas and Gonzaga. I'm going to go with Kansas. It would be a really good matchup. I got to go with Kansas. They're one of the better and more, I wouldn't say really hot basketball teams. I know that they lost against Texas, but they're still one of the better basketball teams. And then Houston and Kansas State. I got to go all chalk here. I got to go with 2-1 seeds. It's probably not going to happen. It's probably going to change as we go on. But Kansas, Houston for the national championship, I'm going to go with the Houston Cougars. They finally get it done. Kansas gets to the national championship, has a chance to go back-to-back, but in the end, Houston finally breaks through after so many appearances in the Elite Eight and the Final Four. The Cougars of Houston get it done. So thank you, everyone, for watching today's video. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you back here on Thursday whenever we have an updated bracketology on March 9th. So looking forward to more March Madness content, and we will see you all next time.